was young, and I had nothing to lose, really, except my life, but then I would probably have some adventures on the way. I left school in 1938, and I joined a firm in the City of London, and I worked there until the war broke out. Now, in 1939, it was pretty evident that a war with Germany would occur sooner or later, and the government was making preparations for that eventuality, and one of the things it did was to double the size of the Territorial Army. Recruitment agencies were set up in different parts of the country, and the one that I went to was at the Mansion House. The stalls were laid out outside the Mansion House, talking about the merits of the various regiments and units. And I looked and saw one that appealed to me, and that was the Corps of Signals. In summer of 1939, I went to camp with the Territorials at Shorncliffe, and there we carried out all sorts of exercises, did all sorts of drills. It was there that I became interested in motorcycling. There were the dispatch riders, and they used to stage scramble races around the course at Shorncliffe, and this appealed to me. When I got back to London after finishing the camp, I acquired a motorbike, a second-hand. It cost me £20. When war actually broke out, then because I was a motorcyclist, I was reclassified as a dispatch rider in the Corps of Signals. And that's how I started my career, if you could call it that, in the Signals as a dispatch rider. The papers told me to report to the unit immediately, so that is what I did. I got my gear on, puttees that I'd been issued with but never put on, but I had to put those on as well, a bandolier that had been issued and was still had grease on it, and I think had a kit bag, but I'm not sure. And off I went to the drill hall at Turnham Green. And when I got there must have been about 100 other blokes, the same as me, and the adjutant was the officer, rank of captain, and he was going almost demented. And eventually he just called everybody to attention and shouted out, "I don't know what the hell you think you people could, how I could accommodate you tonight. Bugger off back home and come back tomorrow morning." So that was my introduction to the army. That was my introduction to war. So I came back the next day, and they were a bit more organised by that time. The dispatch riders were doing a daily, what was called DRLS, Dispatch Rider Letter Service. And they would go from the divisional headquarters to all of the units, the main units, in the home counties, right the way down to Eastbourne, along the coast to Brighton, Shoreham, I think it was, and then back up across country to Sevenoaks. And they would take whatever the mail was, classified mail, if it was marked confidential, secret, top secret, had to be signed for. Otherwise, the ordinary mail, unclassified, could just be handed over. We picked mail up as well and brought it back to the divisional headquarters. It was absolutely vital so that units knew what they were doing, that orders could be sent. Radio was not exactly in its infancy, but it wasn't terribly reliable. Telephone lines during the Blitz and the bombardments got knocked out. So there was only one line left, apart from pigeons, and that was dispatch riders. And that was the role of the dispatch rider. He was there, he was available, and in some cases he went out to deliver whatever under very hostile conditions. Dispatch riders would go to Horse Guards Parade, and then if they were wanted by the War Office, they would go across Whitehall to the War Office. But usually there would be about half a dozen dispatch riders who were in a room in the War Office, and they were on call. So anywhere that the people in the War Office wanted a letter or a paper or whatever it would be sent, there was always a dispatch rider available. Now, that was done on a shift basis. I forget what the shifts were, but it was probably 8 o'clock in the morning until 5, and then 5 until midnight, and then midnight until 8 o'clock. A couple of times I had to go to 10 Downing Street to pick up the dispatch box to take it to Chequers. And it was, please take it to the Prime Minister without delay, and he'll give you some things in return and bring them back here. And there was another time I had to go to Buckingham Palace to pick up something there. I had to go into the palace to the military attaché or the equerry's office, and he handed me the package, and off I went to Southampton. Found the place on the docks where it was addressed to, delivered it, got a signature, came back. I actually saw on 2 or 3 occasions the bombers coming over. I could see them dropping the bombs. You'd see the bombs dropping. So you knew there was a raid in progress, and you knew that somewhere somebody would be suffering. But you hoped it wouldn't be you, and you hoped it wouldn't be members of your family or close friends. I came unstuck a couple of times, I suppose, in blitzes, where I've actually slid into bomb craters. But also there were unexploded bombs, of course, that you had to be beware of. I came off the bike on many times, usually due to slippery weather. You've got to remember that there were no street lights. So if you went down a street and there happened to be a bomb that had landed there, or shrapnel that had caused a depression in the ground, then it's possible that you would run into it. Now, as long as it wasn't terribly deep, you could get away with it. I had to go from the War Office to the Tower of London. This is right through all of the buildings that were on fire, including a fire station close to the Mansion House. On both sides of the river, on the south side, the warehouses, cold storage places, all of those were on fire. On the north side, offices were all on fire, and it was really terrifying. The face of a building had been blown off, and there were people in, I'm not sure if it was bedrooms or offices, I think it was offices, and they were crying out for help. I'm not sure if they were badly hurt or not, but obviously they were very frightened and very upset. And it was that particular sight that remains with me. But I was fortunate. I forget the exact route I took, but it would be the Strand, Fleet Street, I suppose Luggate Circus, and then past St Paul's, past the Mansion House, Leadenhall Street probably, and then into the Tower. And when I got there, I was very relieved to find a Scots Guardsman who was in some sort of a shelter, at the entrance to the tower, who was able to take this package that I brought, and I haven't got a clue what it was. But he took it and signed for it, and I went on my way back, and the fires were even more intense. And I was very pleased when I got back to Whitehall, and I then went into St Martin's in the Field crypt, where they had all 24-hour cafe service, and I got myself a stiff cup of tea. I felt a responsibility. I think you could say I felt a great responsibility, in as much that I had a responsibility to do a particular thing. And in that case, it was to deliver these papers to the tower. I shrugged my shoulders and got on with it. I was young, and I had nothing to lose, really, except my life, but then I would probably have some adventures on the way.